down in turn 4 at the back of the field. Several cars in trouble, including Mark Blundell there, who has got it back under power and is ready to go. So the yellow is out right here on the start.
And that's Roberto Moreno there. He made contact actually with the wall down there. It looks like Blundell, he just spun and got going, but Moreno looks like he did some damage. It looked like his days were done.
Well, just that quickly they start and then they slow down as the field regroups. It'll take a few minutes to get Roberto Moreno's car off of the track, and when we come back we'll see if they can get it going again. It should be terrific. All right, they're ready to come back to a green flag, and they will line up back in the starting order to do that. So that puts Paul Tracy on the inside and Gilles de Ferran on the outside of the front row.
That's something we usually don't see, because it's usually when they're in single file they go ahead and start it like that, and it's a little bit safer, but this looks like it's going to be another exciting start.
A little more action. Paul Tracy really picks up the pace as he comes off of the corner, surges ahead, and they say no. That was a little too far, Paul. Always a questionable thing too, though, because those guys accelerating at the back can't always see.
That's right, but also I think something we shouldn't forget is it's the first race of the season. Everybody's anxious. A lot of them are in new teams. Everybody's pumped up. It's a cool day. They want to get that temperature in the tires, so you might have seen that a little bit, anticipating, hoping to get a run down into turn 1.
So actually we have 4 laps into the record book, though all but about 100 feet of those under the yellow flag. The yellow came out immediately upon the start in this first race of the season, as I think everybody's shaking off some of those first race jitters here. Paul Tracy, the pole sitter, bringing them down, and then the incident, 2 separate cars in the back of the field. They'll try to get aligned again and see if we can't get a start now. Again, the acceleration begins. Again, Paul surges a little bit ahead. Not nearly as much this time. We're ready to go. Green flag is out. The chase is on. Tracy leads him into 1, followed by de Ferran.
A little side-by-side racing there with Scott Pruitt.
Jimmy Vasser jumps down into 3rd place. Pruitt is right behind him. Paul Tracy pulls out a lead. These are anxious moments for all of these teams. And we're yellow again. 1 lap under yellow, and then they decide that there's some debris over on the backstretch. So we've got a lap and about 100 yards under green now. Now, one of the problems that has occurred here, this is probably not it, but one of the problems, well, maybe we'll know. Here is Michael Andretti's onboard camera, and that's Gugelmin ahead. He taps with him.
It looked like Gugelmin slowed, and I think that's because the reason he's coming to the pit. But Michael, trying to pull out, clipped the front wing. It looked like just popped the front wing right off the car, or at least the end plate off the front wing.
Michael's right front was where the impact occurred. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
We await, along with the Newman-Haas crew, the radio report. As we see now, Gugelmin fly by us after a quick stop. They're waiting to see if Michael must come in. His radio conversation with the crew was that there was contact with Gugelmin. I don't know if there's any damage to the car. I think the crew's probably in the same situation right here. You may have a better look at it than us, Paul.
Well, you know, if we can look at that again, there is a possibility. If you keep an eye, Danny, on the left rear of Gugelmin, it looks like it may break actually before Michael gets there. Like he may have chocked the brakes for a second, but it also may be Michael's tire touching. Hard to tell.
Well, you can see it's actually Michael's nose just hits that tire right there. That's just the contact between the bodywork on Michael's car and Gugelmin's tire. And Maurizio did come into the pits and change the tire. I don't know if he had a problem why he slowed, and that's why Michael went by him so fast. But that's pretty close drafting on the first lap.
Also, as they came to the yellow, Brian Herta surged past Al Unser Jr., and as a result, they are going to throw a penalty when they come back to green flag racing. That's the report that we have right now. So Michael Andretti heads into the pits, and this will give us a better idea of what kind of damage. You called it exactly right, Danny.
Well, I'd like to say something here too. I think what we're seeing here is a lot of the viewers might be thinking, why is this getting just so hard to get going, the race here? But I think what we're seeing is just first race jitters. Everybody's new positions. Everybody's pumped up. They're thinking about the race and the championship, and we're just seeing a few little mistakes early on.
Well, I think, again, exactly what you said, that so much is on the line in regard to the championship, though you normally don't think about it until you get toward the end of the year. It's on the line right now. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Crew working to remove the damaged nose. They have a spare in position ready to put it on immediately, but this is a time-consuming process at best. Even under yellow, you can see the crew members at the front undoing those bolts there and the screws that will let them free up the damaged equipment on the front, and another one ready to go into its place. But boy, must be very frustrating for Michael Andretti. Now they brought the other one back. There seems to be a communication problem here of some sort. Maybe they're going to send him out without a nose so that he doesn't lose a lap. And he stalls it. Oh, man. Throwing things down here. They are so frustrated. The starter comes back. They didn't want him to lose the lap. Here come the safety cars. They go by to his right, not more than 25 yards away. The engine comes to life. Now they may go ahead and just put on the spare nose, but the damage has been done in two senses. First to the nose itself, now the fact that they've lost a lap to the field.
And you're probably thinking that the yellow, for just a glance off the wall and the debris, shouldn't be this long, and it has been extended now with the yellow because it is raining. It's a light rain, a very light rain, but one that will affect the racing. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, we've been plagued by rain showers for the last 2 days, and you may not be able to see it right now, but it is beginning to sprinkle. One of the problems, on a road course, you might see a rain tire go on. But at this point in time, development work by both Goodyear and Firestone has precluded the use of those type of rain tires on an oval track configuration. Now the word, and if you've been following racing, you and Danny Sullivan and myself, we all know that some of the tire companies have been experimenting with putting grooves on the slicks in hopes that maybe someday we could run in the rain on an oval, but not today in Homestead.
We're back going green. Paul Tracy leads them down. Tracy to Farron, Vassar, Pruitt, Rahal. Rahal, as Gordon tries to make a move. You're on board Robbie Gordon as he just moves past Rahal. And that puts Gordon into 5th place.
You could just see there for a second the raindrops on Robbie Gordon's in-car camera just going across the front of it.
Why is rain so critical at a point like this? You would think that by now the tires would be developed to a point where they could handle it. Is it the compromise with high speed?
It's a high speed, it's the banking, it's the drainage of the track, and they've never traditionally run on an oval track. They'll run a little bit in the rain because the tire is warmed up, the track's going, it won't be a big problem. But right at this moment, if it gets heavier, then they'll have to come in.
Now here's what we're going to try to add to some of the programming this year as we cover IndyCars. Is the top of your screen, the laps to go, the leader of the race and how much he is leading over 2nd place by, and then down the right side we'll show you the entire field and the interval back from the front. Hopefully this will help keep us all a little better informed as we go through the year and help you keep track of your favorite driver. Still a show of water on the lens there. They wipe it clear, but look how fast it builds up. So they're staying green, but there is moisture.
There is some moisture out there, but those little drops at the moment, Paul, they won't really affect the driver or anything. There's Greg Moore trying to make a move on Robbie Gordon. Thought a little better of it.
Well, the cover on the front wing didn't unnerve him too much. It doesn't look like. Scott Pruitt, he runs in 4th place. As we look down the backstretch, back with Robbie Gordon and Greg Moore.
Don't forget these guys at the moment too. The race is now just started. They're settling in a little bit in the groove, feeling what their car is doing on full tanks and also what it's doing in traffic, because don't forget they haven't run under these conditions with the reduced downforce that the rules brought into play in 1996.
And theoretically that reduced the downforce substantially, but you know, these engineers, a few turns of the pin, or now I guess the computer-aided design, they get it back. Also the tires, been a lot of work done on those over the winter.
Well, and don't forget, you not just have the engineers for the cars, you've got the tire engineers, because now with Goodyear and Firestone in the series, They both want to have a little bit better tire. Then the engine manufacturers and the turbo manufacturers, everybody's trying to improve and make their product better.
Al Unser Jr. on the move, started 13th, is now up to 8th, closing on Bobby Rahal.
You know, Al's one of those guys too that he's not traditionally a great qualifier, but he is always working on his race setup, and I think you're going to probably see him moving through the pack a little bit. He's got a really good car.
Already the front of the field beginning now to overhaul the back of the field. You saw DeFerrin and Vassar move out. Pruitt now out and around. Look at Moore almost down to the grass as he challenges, tries to get inside. Gordon does it. We say this young kid was going to be super.
That was a good move on him, and I think it was set up by Robbie probably being held up a little bit in that traffic. There's Jimmy taking a look at Gilles DeFerrin, seeing if he could get back for second place.
Tracy, DeFerrin, Vassar, Pruitt, then Greg Moore, and then Robbie Gordon. Tracy, though, look at the interval, pulls out 5.8 seconds already. Now, one of the other questions in all of these combinations, now we know the Penske, powered by Mercedes, works well. Next question is going to be, what about the engine? Mercedes has had some problems. They had an engine go in spring training here, and that was pretty spectacular. And then Al Unser Jr. had some problems here, as did Bobby Rahal. And we are going back yellow, and this is moisture on the track, which we call rain. So it's Paul Tracy has led while we have had green flag here, followed by Gilles DeFerrin, Jimmy Vassar, Scott Pruitt, Greg Moore, and Robbie Gordon. We'll be back after this message. Well, here at Homestead, you can see that the red flag has just been displayed at the starter's stand. Still rain a problem. We have here with us in the booth, just a few feet down from race control, Dennis Swan, who is the chief steward designate for the series, meaning that he'll take Wally Dallenbach's job next year in the series. But you're also constantly part of the process that figures out how to run these races and how to do them safely. Safety is a consideration here. What's the judgment? Why this red flag?
What has happened is we threw the yellow because we went below what we considered a safe standard. We can monitor the drivers and that sort of thing, plus our safety team is out there. We threw the yellow to get everything under control, and then we've been monitoring it, and we kept the track dry with our blowers, but we couldn't go green. So we elected to pull a red flag. We understand by our weather radar that we're going to be clear in about 15, maybe 20 minutes, and then we'll go green again, so we get a good race in.
And what will be then the rule for the restart? Line up in order that they were under the red flag?
Yes, they'll go out in single file order.
Makes for a long and hard day for you guys, doesn't it?
Yes, long, hard day for the spectators and everyone.
Well, the spectators are sticking with us as the crews come in now to the pit area and the teams out ready for their cars to approach. Will they be permitted to work on them or refuel them? What's the rule there?
Yes, our red flag procedure is the cars can come in and they can do all normal maintenance that we normally perform in a pit stop. And when we get ready to grid the cars, they'll go out and we'll just grid and go in single file order in the order that they're in right now.
All right, Dennis Swan, thank you very much. Toyota Supra now begins to roll away. Paul Tracy and Gilles DeFerrin follow them out. And take a look at those tires.
Yeah, they're going out on stickers. Paul's very confident that he can get those tires scrubbed in by the time that they go green. And everybody is on full tanks.
All right, let's take a look at how they stand right now. This is how they're lined up. Coming back to a green flag, and we'll have 4 laps under yellow. Tracy, DeFerrin, Vassar, Pruitt, Greg Moore, and Robbie Gordon, followed by Bobby Rahal, Al Unser Jr., Andre Ribeiro, Brian Herta, Emerson Fittipaldi, Alex Zanardi. We'll go through now the entire field as they are lined up here. And the situation is, this is now the start of lap 35. we're ready to go back green. Paul Tracy's labels were still on the tires as he comes off of this corner. So we keep a close eye on Tracy, and they are green. We're racing again. Everybody off the corner nice and clean. Tires working fine through 1 and 2.
Doesn't seem like those labels were affecting him at all.
Quite a group coming through the corner now. Everybody looks for racing room around Brian Herta. And Paul Tracy does exactly what he did before. He is able to pull out on the second place car. Tracy, DeFerrin, Vassar. Again, we'll give you the intervals, the laps to go. 1.53 miles around. There's Jimmy. He said he was going to try to move on DeFerrin, and he's gonna.
Of course, both of those being Honda powered, they're probably pretty equal on their power plants. Don't forget, too, that these cars right at this moment are probably the best they're ever going to feel. They've got brand new tires on there. Everything's just come up to temperature. For these next 3 or 4 or 5 laps, these cars are going to feel great to them.
So Jimmy Vassar in pursuit of second place. Gil DeFerrin. Over on the backstretch, moves into 3. Cross the chute into 4. There's Vassar right there. Scott Pruitt, of course, is right there as well. Here is Greg Moore leading Robbie Gordon, Bobby Rahal, and Al Unser Jr. Started 13th, little Al did. He's up in 8th. Andre Ribeiro is 9th. Riding on board, Robbie Gordon.
Hear that noise right in there in the corner? He just had to breathe it just a little bit.
Robbie Gordon in pursuit of Greg Moore. I'll tell you what, everyone has said it. We'll say it again. Keep your eyes on that young man, the number 99 car there. But that's the great thing about the way the series operates right now is not only these great rookies, but all the big names, the young guns like Gordon, the veterans like Unser and Andretti, Rahal.
And as we can see from that shot there, he's caught the sort of second place pack. Second, third, fourth, and fifth are all right there together.
Paul Tracy out nearly 5 seconds now. And Scott Pruitt begins to join into the battle. Greg Moore closes on Pruitt. That'll be a battle for 4th in just a second. Jimmy Vassar still hasn't been able to catch DeFerrin, but the battle between Pruitt and Moore is moving forward and catching both Vassar and DeFerrin. Pruitt right on top of Vassar now, and Moore on the charge. Greg Moore now in position to move, looks to the inside. And that's where the question of passing on an oval, especially a very tight oval like this, comes in.
Well, it does, and of course when you're running with a fast guy and you're fighting for a position, those guys aren't going to be easy to pass, so you've really got to have it together there. See Moore there take a look to the outside. He's trying to size it up, and don't forget these guys are all trying to feel what the car's doing in the traffic. You see right there, he went to the outside. Now he dropped back a little bit. Obviously the disturbed air affected him. Now he's going to have to get his momentum back up and run him down again.
2nd through 5th all right together on the course as Paul Tracy and his Penske powered by Mercedes pulls away. There's DeFerrin, Vassar, Pruitt, and Moore all tight on the racetrack.
Well, it looks like that's kind of the comfortable gap to run to the next car. And as we saw, Moore gets up close, makes an attempt at it, then he loses some ground. And I'm not so sure that that air is not disturbing him enough that he's having to back off when he gets behind that car.
And that's been part of the concern here that the drivers have expressed in looking at the challenge of this course is that you can kind of get up there, but then the straightaway ends and you can't really get by.
That's right. And this track is interesting. It's 1.5 miles, so it's not a super speedway. As you see, everybody's running their short track wings. Those are the bigger wings on the front, bigger wings on the back. Not what you'll see at the Michigan 500, the USA 500, or the Indianapolis 500. The track is tight enough that they've got to have that downforce, but they run it at a minimum amount.
So the interval that Tracy has as a lead over the field begins to close down. Reason for that mostly is they are now already encountering traffic of slower cars. You saw DeFerrin and Pruitt moving through, but look at Greg Moore. Moore climbing on the back of Pruitt, moves to the outside. Blocked for the moment, and now he's passed.
What a great move there. Really set up by traffic, but Greg really was very bold there. He made a really strong move and moved Scott down.
That was Blundell that actually contributed to that. And now Rahal, Unser Jr. as they battle. This is a battle for 7. Unser Jr. making great strides here. Started in 13th. Of course, he's always said he's not the world's greatest qualifier. He makes it up during the race. Tracy begins to stretch a lead out once again. Over on the backstretch. And Little L is able to put some traffic between him and his pursuers for the moment. Back looking at second place. And look at what they have to contend with.
As usual on an oval, the great racing is when they get into the traffic, and your car has to work in the traffic to be able to win this race. And look at Greg Moore, he's right up there on Jimmy now.
So the fight now very definitely underway before a full house here, despite the threat of rain and in fact rain. Still working their way down through traffic. Master with Greg Moore charging. Boy, look at the sweep to the inside here.
And Greg Moore just lost about 3 spots right there. And you know what? That was all set up by traffic.
Yeah, and brought the yellow out as well. So the yellow flies. No indication of an incident involving a car. Report is that Mauricio Gugelmin spun coming off at 2. But Danny, he kept going, right? There he is.
Yeah, he looks like he spun and got away with it.
So Mauricio Gugelmin brings out the yellow with a spin, keeps it off the wall, go in the pits, look for some fresh tires, and fairly quickly we should be back to racing. We'll be right back. Looking down on the Homestead Racing Complex here, the But One airship and its Eye in the Sky camera are proud to bring you these pictures from more than 1,000 feet up above the Homestead Motorsports Complex. Well, we should come back to green flag very shortly here, but first let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, they work at the back of the Pac West Hollywood car driven by Mauricio Gugelmin. They initially brought a spare rear wing to the edge of the wall, thought they were going to try to replace it, but apparently a problem down there around the gearbox cover, as Danny indicated, unable to make that change. So Mauricio unbuckled, climbed out. His day, disappointedly, is now totally complete.
What would that have done to the gearbox?
Well, it wouldn't have done anything probably to the gearbox, but the wing is mounted to the back of the gearbox. And if it tweaked that plate on the back of the gearbox, even putting another wing on there wouldn't fix it. The mount was broken.
Let's go back to Gary.
And now a word from Mauricio. What happened, Mo?
Well, my car was very loose after that next start, and I lost coming out of 1. Luckily, I just brushed the wall with the rear wing, but we damaged the mounting of the rear wing, so I can't carry on.
Very, very frustrating, I know, as they get set to go green racing. What, the conditions good as you got those few laps after the long delay?
The car felt a little bit looser. I don't know if the circle is looser too, but at least it's not raining now.
Thanks, Mo. Mauricio Gugelmin out, Jack.
Gary, very quickly, we see Al Unser Jr. getting very racy, an indication as to why. Richard Buck, his crew chief, says, we're going to try and make this thing in one stop. They've been playing with the boost.
Oh, well, that's going to make it interesting as they come back to green flag. Paul Tracy leads them around. DeFerrin has to move around some slower traffic to separate himself from his pursuers. To try to make this in one stop now, 76 to go, seems like a stretch.
Well, you got 150 miles. That means you got to make 75 miles on a tank. But I'm not trying to correct you there, Jack. Ooh, a little dodgy move there. Did you see those two guys almost get together? Drop Little Al right back, right there.
And we're
Robbie
back.
got through, but it was close for Little Al.
Back yellow once again. Al's front wing will be the yellow.
Yeah, they actually did touch. That little move cost him his front wing. Yeah, that might have dropped Al's chances right there to do it on one stop, because he's going to have to stop now and get that wing fixed to be able to run. And just one other thing, Jack, on the boost, they don't actually turn the boost down. What they're doing is they're adjusting the fuel mixture, and they go from 100% to 98%, 96, 94, 92, something like that. They tend to keep the boost in the same place, just turn the mixture down so they're flowing a little less.
There it is. Al Unser Jr. trying to maneuver in traffic. That's Carlos Guerrero right there. And he swept down across the front.
Well, when you're running in traffic like that, it's pretty hard to, you know, he couldn't stay up there in the gray. He had to come down a little bit onto the track, and unfortunately Al was trying to sneak through.
And Guerrero will have to come in and pick up a tire as a result of that. Let's go to Jack.
And Al Unser Jr. has lost the entire right side, the right front wing. The crew will go to work, and Danny Sullivan, needless to say, I should know better. That is indeed what I meant, not the boost, the fuel metering. That's where the radio conversation has been, going from 12 o'clock to 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. But right now, the crew is having a great deal of difficulty getting the actual attachment off the front wing nose cone section. They're working with an air wrench, trying to dislodge it, and it could be that maybe when he had that contact, it stripped some of them, because they are taking an inordinately long period of time to make this switch. One of the great things about these Penske cars is this is the type of stuff that's pre-engineered into them. To make quick changes like this on this nose cone, they've accomplished it. They're going to finish it now in just a couple of seconds.
Well, they're probably getting a little bit of help there from Paul Tracy, who was probably ordered to slow it down a little bit to give them enough time to stay on the lead lap. But the problem is that nose cone is designed, and structurally it's supposed to be very strong for an impact. So you see all those little nuts and bolts on there trying to hold that deal on there. Little Al, by the way, is getting back out, but he does not have the wing on. So he's trying to beat the pace car out, get back around, come back in the pits and get another lap. Jack?
Danny, that's exactly what happened. They weren't able to get the nose cone seated. There's a notching system in it. They moved it back up in there. It looked like the bolts were actually going to take hold. They didn't. So now he had to go out without a nose cone. No problem, because it's under caution, but they're going to have to reattach it, bring them back onto pit road.
Well, there is a problem, because they're going to go green in one lap. So that'll be a problem for Little Al.
All right, so Al Unser Jr., as they're getting ready to go back to green, will have to come in and get that nose wing properly attached, and then he'll join the action. We're back at Homestead and back to green flag racing. Paul Tracy is the leader. Gil DeFerrin runs in second place, but Jimmy Vasser is really trying to reel him in. As they came back to green, 2 cars were called in for violations. One of them, Greg Moore, for a yellow violation, and Carlos Guerrero for a blend line violation. They were both assessed stop-and-go penalties. Paul Tracy is the leader, 69 laps to go. And again, Paul Tracy is able to move out. The center of focus remains here at second place as Jimmy Vasser tries to overhaul Gil DeFerrin.
Well, I think one of the things we're seeing here is all the excitement, and the outcome of this race from second back seems to be going to happen depending on how they get through traffic. Paul doesn't have enough pressure on him to really be worried about how he gets through or get under another car, but these guys are fighting for position when they get in those big traffic jams, and the positions are changing quite drastically.
Well, the order is Paul Tracy, Gil DeFerrin, Jimmy Vasser, Scott Pruitt, Robbie Gordon. Nothing changes there. Then Rahal, Rivero, Fittipaldi, Herta, and Alex Zanardi now sits in 10th place. Moore back on the track after his penalty.
We've seen 2 of our champions and 2 of the most experienced guys and 2 of the favorites for the championship both have problems in traffic and lose a nose.
Yeah, I think one of the things interesting about the international coverage is that at some of the shops that build these cars, like Penske at Poole, England, they actually get together in the shop and watch the race. You can bet the pencils came out when there was a suggestion that maybe that didn't fit exactly right there. And that nose cone, they'll take a hard look at that one. Jimmy Vasser. His car has the bright yellow roll bar to distinguish it from his teammate Alex Zanardi. And traffic, as always, on short ovals becomes the issue. Turn the gear.
It looked as if Jimmy Vasser was maybe changing gear there, which you don't normally do on an oval. Normally you have 2 top gears where when you're running in traffic you run one with a little less RPM, but I'm not so sure he didn't go down into that gear to get a jump off of the corner to pass that slower car so he didn't lose ground on Gil DeFerrin.
Let's just ride with him and see what he's doing. I'll tell you what, watch how close he'll get to the wall in some of these corners.
Now I watched Jimmy through practice and it's amazing how much he's right up there getting some dust up right before he goes into the corner.
Solid all the way, no gear there, maybe just for traffic.
It could have been because he was coming up on a back marker. He might have been running that taller gear to try to conserve fuel to make it a 1 stop, and realized he had those other 2 guys behind him. He needed to snatch the lower gear to get a runoff.
63 laps to go. Jack, are they thinking about pit stops?
Well, according to Paul Tracy's crew, they are put a window out of lap 87 or 88, trying to stretch the fuel mileage to there. But by my calculations, guys, that would force them to have to maybe do a splash and go if this thing stays green.
We just finished lap 71 for the leader, Paul Tracy, and you can see that now with traffic being Tracy's concern, the lead has been whittled down, and DeFerrin is now just 1.4 seconds back.
He dropped off quite a bit on his lap speed, as we saw. It could have been traffic, and he could have been required to turn the fuel mixer down to conserve a little fuel.
We've crossed the halfway point of the race, so should we have any more rain, and let me say it's not expected, but should we, this is an official race now. Paul Tracy, the leader. DeFerrin, Vasser, Pruitt, Gordon. There's DeFerrin, that bright yellow car. And look, he's able to move out again. Moves around traffic just behind them. Greg Moore trying to carve his way back up through this field after that penalty. He runs in 16th place, and he is on the fly. Now lights up.
And Paul Tracy's already gotten by that traffic.
You see Paul now starts to pull out. He had 1.5 of the margin, now out to 3.3. Scott Goodyear just ahead. DeFerrin's around him.
That was a pretty costly move there for Jimmy Vasser. We have to back off going into the corner. You see how Scott Pruitt's now right up there behind him.
Pruitt's right there. Moore is right there, though Moore is not part of the fight.
You'd never know it by the way he's driving.
Report from race control is that they are keeping an eye on the front wing of Al Unser's car. Report that the wing is wobbling a bit. Moore moves out around Goodyear, again not part of the fight.
I think probably for Greg Moore, having gone a lap down with that stop and go, he's anxious to get back to the front to see if he can get that lap back.
Well, and there's a good example of the loss of momentum, too, as Pruitt tried to dive in there, couldn't get it done, had to brush the brakes. And as a result, he's lost speed for a lap or two. Robbie Gordon rides in 5th. Look at Rahal trying on Gordon. Bobby Rahal up. Can he get it away from Gordon? He does. Bobby Rahal moves into 5th place.
And you saw out there how it looks like he's pulled away so much, and it makes it look like he's that much faster. It's not. It's that Robbie had to lift there. Bobby carried his speed in, and all that momentum was lost on Robbie, and he loses that much ground.
Jack Arute, race control, has been watching Little Al's wing. What's the story?
And just about the time that you were talking about race control, one of the IndyCar officials came to Richard Buck, the crew chief for Al Unser Jr., and notified him as well. Now, Richard Buck says that they were able to tighten both of those nuts up so that the wing should not be wobbling. But he has gone back to the toolbox, gotten the tool necessary to retighten it if they have to come in. And he's also, guys, assigned one of his crew members to watch the wing down the front straightaway to see if the wobbling continues. They haven't been able to see it yet.
On board, 2nd place, Jill DeFerrin right now. He's past Hiro Matsushita. And still trying to focus. About 6 seconds, which is about a straightaway up ahead, and try and catch the leader, Paul Tracy. But look, in that last lap, once again, as they flash past the line, traffic makes such a critical difference on a short oval.
It still looks like Paul's got quite a bit in hand. He looks comfortable with it, but he's probably safely weaving his way through traffic. He doesn't want to make any mistakes with a car that's handling this good.
As Greg Moore continues to stay up at the front, he has been able to move up 2 positions, getting around Goodyear and Johansson, and now runs 14th. Physically positioned on the track right behind 3rd place Jimmy Vasser, and creating a bit of a buffer back to Jimmy from Jimmy Vasser to Scott Pruitt. Now Vasser closing on DeFerrin, fight for 2nd.
And I'll tell you what's going through Jill DeFerrin's mind is, one, he's trying to run down Paul Tracy. He wants to stay in touch with him so he can have a run later in the race. But he's got to be worried about Jimmy Vasser. He's right behind him. Look at this. He's going to make a move on him right here.
Vasser drives to the inside. Little move by DeFerrin keeps him from getting down there. Which I guess brings up what's legal, what isn't, what's blocking.
Well, in that case, he had been held a little bit by a slower car, and you know, he didn't want to lose. He lost the momentum, and he didn't want to lose the spot.
Yellow for debris on the circuit. The leaders decide this is the time to hit the pits with 82 laps complete. So the leaders are in. Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul Tracy, this is a little bit early for what Tracy and the team had hoped to do, to make it at least a window possible for going and making this a one-stop race. You can see the tires have been changed. The thing that takes the most time is the fuel. let's go to Gary.
Gilles de Ferran is in, and we're going to find out right now if that shortened hose can save them any time, but there's a little bit of a problem at the rear getting a tire on. Fueling is complete. Now they're away. After stopping 14 seconds on the nose.
Well, the yellow is for contact. Whoa, look at Jimmy. You don't want to lose any time there. They come out of the pits 1, 2, 3, so they'll all be back together as we're ready to go back green once again. The yellow was for contact between Andre Ribeiro and Robbie Gordon. Both cars continuing on, though.
You know, it looked like Paul Tracy had a little problem getting out of the pits because Gilles de Ferran came out and almost ran up the back of him. So did Jimmy. It was almost like he had trouble getting the gear or something.
And again, the Tracy decision is for brand new tires.
Well, I think this is that he's feeling very comfortable and confident with the car, but he's going back into the pits. He's coming back into the pits. He obviously had a problem when he went out.
Right back in then.
This doesn't look good. He's coming in awful slow, and those guys are over the wall. They don't look real anxious.
And look at this. How did this happen? Zanardi under yellow, and we have no idea how this occurred.
No, but that's substantial damage.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, guys, you saw in that pit stop that when Paul Tracy put the car into gear, he began to pull away. He went up through the gearbox. The only problem is he got stuck in second gear. It's a sequential gearbox. They're trying to isolate the problem right now, but this is indeed costly for Team Penske and Paul Tracy.
Well, Alex Zanardi, with substantial damage, sits down on the road into the pits, and here's what caused it. Look at that wheel.
Look at that. He's lost a left rear, it looked like. He's got no control at that stage. Yeah, the left rear is completely gone. If that was right after a pit stop, obviously they didn't get the nut on tight enough, and he just, first time he gets to the corner, just pulls away.
And there's the villain in this, as does Zanardi with damage to the back end and Paul Tracy out of the car.
They obviously have, if he's out of the car, then Penske's can't fix it. It's a major problem because they'd be working on that car if it was something easy and get him back out to at least have a chance at some points.
Well, when we started, we were talking about the combinations and how they will work and what the problems may be. Here's one of those potential examples.
Yeah, but this is non-Penske like. Usually they don't have a problem with the gearbox. They've been running that gearbox for a while. It shouldn't have been a problem. But let me tell you what he's going through right now. When you're that hooked up and when you've got the field covered like that and you're as dominant as he has, to have something like a gearbox break, I mean, he's crushed. In one way, he's happy because he was showing the field what he could do, but he's destroyed.
Shades of Eddie Sachs at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, kicking his tire down as he heads back to the pits. Zanardi is now the reason for the yellow. We'll be back after this message. And boy, look at a move under traffic as we come back to the green flag. Vassar is able to make the move.
It doesn't matter whether he passes before the start finish on a restart. The minute the track goes green, no matter where you are on the track, you can pass. So if he was 15th, he could pass coming into turn 4 if he wanted to.
Boy, and that's just what Jimmy is all about. He is a totally focused racer, and he really thinks this kind of stuff out as he jumped right around to Ferran and picks up the lead.
And now he's working his way through traffic very well, and he's really going to work at trying to get that gap, whereas Gilles de Ferran's got to work his way through traffic, and he's got a bigger gap.
On board with Robbie Gordon and Stefan Johansson just ahead. They're all in the middle of this fight as the leaders come through. Here's Rahal once again challenging on Gordon.
And you saw there that Robbie had to lift off because of that slower car that he was trying to lap, and Bobby got the run on him. Traffic is playing a very important part, and in fact, Bobby's in front of Scott Pruitt.
Raul Boisel has responded to a stop-and-go penalty. Now it's Vassar, de Ferran, Rahal, Pruitt, and Robbie Gordon. The top 5 changing quickly here in the traffic and in the closing lap with 29 to go. And here comes Pruitt back on Rahal. Rahal tries to hold him off, gets to the corner first.
I got to tell you, Paul, this is some great racing. First race out, not very many laps to go. We got about 29 laps to go, and these guys are all fighting for position and points.
Rahal, Pruitt, Gordon, third, fourth, fifth. Vassar is the leader. He jumped to Farron on the start. Farron hasn't been able to catch up, but Vassar has begun to pull away.
And Jimmy's leading by 2.6 seconds. That's a nice little cushion, and he's going to want to extend that. And I think that's because he's got a clean track in front of him. He's not fighting with the traffic.
We're extending here, of course, to cover the end of this race, and then college basketball up next, North Carolina and Duke. Look at this, back and forth across the track. What do you think? Does that come under the blocking rule?
Well,
it's the second move, not the first, right?
It's not the first, but don't forget, we're late in the race, and these guys are battling. There's 3 of them in there, and they're battling for third place in the championship.
Rahal darts
tough.
Rahal darts low, gets around Stefan Johansson, as does the remainder of the group. Pruitt, Gordon, Christian Fittipaldi has gotten around his uncle, and now runs in 6th place. Then Emerson, Herta, Fernandez, Johansson. Boy, what a fight this is.
And look at this. They're also not only battling with themselves, they've got to contend with traffic. And I think that's what you see Bobby when he moves down on that car. He's been blocked coming off the corner. He doesn't want to lose the position.
Emerson Fittipaldi just came into the pits. Battle continues. 3rd, 4th, 5th. Leader is still Vassar.
Now that move I did not understand there about Fernandez. He moved down low and virtually blocked Bobby, and those guys are running for 3rd spot.
Again, the overhead view from the Bud 1 airship. All right together there. Onto the front stretch.
Fernandez, who of course I think is running in about 8th spot at the moment, but they need to clear that so that they can have a clean track in front of them and battle in clear air.
But then again, Fernandez, who is in fact an 8th, has his own concerns, and part of it is Stefan Johansson, who is right in the middle of this as well. And Rahal just offers a comment to Fernandez, shaking his fist, saying, "Let us through."
I don't really think that Adrian should be racing him at that position, but also he doesn't want to go a lap down to those guys either.
Well, again, we're talking points.
Yep. But he's safely in front of those guys, out of those guys racing. And you, of course, don't know what he's being told on the radio and where the guy in 9th place is.
Well, just back behind this battle is Johansson.
And look who's coming through there. Who's obviously got a great car. Is Greg Moore is just knifing his way through there.
Greg Moore, with that move, now comes into the top 10 in 9th place. Lap off the lead, but he just got around Al Unser Jr. to get up into that 9th position. There's Junior.
Obviously, Bobby's comment to Fernandez made some difference. He slipped by him. But see, that's wrong.
Bobby did, but look at Gordon and Pruitt.
Yeah,
and finally, whoa.
And that's just wrong there. He shouldn't be going down the middle. Stay in your line. If a guy's faster, he should be able to get by. He's not racing those guys for position.
So now they'll rejoin the battle. Rahal is going to play with Moore. I guess he's not exactly sure where Moore is. He can let him go.
Well, his crew should be telling him where he is. But don't forget, he might want to keep Moore behind him so he has a cushion to those other 2 guys back there. He'd like to have more between he and Pruitt and Robbie Gordon.
Moore tries on both sides, finally is around.
Moore is probably the fastest car on the track at the moment. He is knifing through there.
Try to track some of these laps that Greg Moore is turning. They are pretty spectacular. Certainly equal width, if not faster than the leaders. Basketball coming up right after the IndyCar race here. Stay with us. going to see, I think, what is going to be an incredible finish. Vassar has a lead now by 6.7 seconds. Look at Rahal once again as he tries to hold off the charge. Pruitt this time.
And Pruitt actually ended up using Bobby's teammate Brian Herta to help him through that corner. And Pruitt's on the move. He's running awful fast at the moment.
So now Pruitt in third place. His next goal is to Farron. While this man, Robbie Gordon's goal, is Rahal. So it's Vassar to Farron, Pruitt, Rahal, and Gordon. And Greg Moore continues to carve forward. He's up to 7th place now, behind Christian Fittipaldi. Once again, Herta. Whoa, very definitely part of the action. Whoa, I don't think he saw him.
And look who's right in there in the mix is Little Al.
Al Unser Jr. coming through. He's in 9th, a lap off the lead. But that's what makes the short track so fascinating.
Paul, I don't know about you. This race started off a little bit slow, but it's awful exciting right now with 17 laps to go.
Oh, it's paying us back here at the end.
These guys are racing. They felt the cars out. They got plenty of fuel on board. Their tires are in good shape, and there's points at stake. They're really racing. Did you see that dust come up from Robbie right there? He had it up very high.
Gordon, Rahal battle for 4th. Everything ahead of it static right now.
You know what's a great part right now? Is that we're at the racing stage right now. The pits are done. Everybody's done out there, provided there's no problem. The tires are on, the fuel's on, everything's going, and it's down to the drivers, and they're just out there racing, and those teams are all sitting there watching the action.
But Jimmy Vassar, who was denied last year a victory, originally with a protest over Al Unser Jr., was given the win of the race at Portland. But then it was taken away from him and given back to Al Unser Jr. on appeal. So his first and only IndyCar win has yet to come. But take a look. Vassar's lead being whittled away.
I think we really got to pay attention to that too, Paul. Of course, it could be just that he gets caught in traffic. And don't forget that Gilles de Ferran has to come to that same traffic.
Yeah, that lead is timed actually at the start-finish line. And so sometimes it can be deceptive. But we can see about a straightaway back. De Ferran is coming.
He's coming, but he's battling right now with Greg Moore. And Jimmy will be in this traffic. He's coming up on a slower car right now.
Greg Moore continuing to try to move up through the field. Runs 7th, wants to get around de Ferran.
Don't forget, Greg Moore's probably feeling good. His car's handling great. He's one of the fastest cars out there. And if by chance he could get back on that lead lap, you never know. If the yellow comes out late, he's still on. He can get back that lap that he lost early on.
I'll tell you what, Moore is incredible. By the way, this display at the top of the screen, which I personally think is very helpful, part of that is driven by EDS scoring, the official scoring of IndyCar. Transponders on the race cars transmitting to antennas down in the track, and they can discriminate down to 1/10,000th of a second. Our thanks to EDS for the help they give us.
And unfortunately, in qualifying, I think I've been beat out by a couple of positions by that great scoring at 10,000th of a minute. Wait a second.
Wish we were back to the stopwatch. Here's the leader, Vassar, 4.5 ahead. As he approaches the start-finish line this time, be 10 laps to go. And that becomes a bit of a no man's land. If you have a disabled car and you pull it off the edge, unless it's really in danger, they're not going to go yellow for it.
That's right.
They're going to run to the end. continue to watch Gil de Ferran trying to reel in the leader of the race, Jimmy Vasser. Doesn't seem like it is possible right now. Vasser is able to maintain that interval. The question is going to be, can Scott Pruitt, who is just behind de Ferran and that predominantly white car, will he be able to close in and grab off second place? Bobby Rahal is fourth. Robbie Gordon is fifth. Interval widens out.
I'll tell you what, it's got to be a great feeling inside of Jimmy Vasser's helmet right now. He's got to be feeling great. He's got a little bit of a cushion out there. The nerves are pumping. His adrenaline is flowing. And he knows that he's not far away from his first win if he can just maintain that gap and not make any mistakes.
Interesting, his path through racing and into this team as the second driver, and then they realized how really good he was. Something that a lot of Californians have known for years because he's raced all over that state, and of course is a veteran of IndyCar. 6 laps to go.
And it just goes to show you, if you keep plugging away out there, you can do it. Even look at what happened to Michael early on in the race, lost a nose, went a lap down. He's been out there. He's up to up to 10th place now 9th place, excuse me. That's 4 points. That helps him for his championship hopes.
Rahal still chasing Gordon. That interval closing too. Margin slips. That's just the kind of thing can take a win away from you too. You get caught in traffic, really have to slow down. De Ferran will be on top of you right now.
Yeah, they've got the momentum going, but Jimmy's doing a good job. And don't forget, there's 4 laps to go. Not only do they have to catch him, they then got to pass him.
So now 4 to go.
And race car drivers tend to get very tough to pass when they get close to that checkered flag.
Those cars can become wide.
Very wide.
There's de Ferran.
Don't forget, de Ferran still got to deal with that traffic.
Pruitt looking to the inside, has to back out of it. And Rahal's closing in now on Pruitt. And Gordon.
And Robbie.
Look at this. Look at Robbie and Rahal.
Whoa.
Rahal gets back around Gordon. Rahal's back to 4th.
And he's closed up on Scott Pruitt and de Ferran. Look, they're all making a run right here.
They're all right together now.
Traffic is still playing a very important part. Look at Bobby.
Bobby Rahal looks wide. Does he get caught with this one?
Yes. See, he got the momentum off of that first turn, then he got bogged down. And look at Robbie Gordon's now down there. He's going to get it back.
Robbie Gordon comes flying by on the inside. He gets the position back from Rahal. Well,
great racing. Great racing.
And there's the white flag. 1 to go. It looks like this one is going to belong to Vasser, but who's second, third, fourth, and fifth is going to be is just about anybody's guess. As Jimmy Vasser on the backstretch working on his first win. We're watching the battle for second. They're all together now.
Scott Pruitt's going down on the inside, but I don't think Gilles going to let him have any more than a look.
That is not Gordon just ahead of de Ferran. That is Scott Goodyear. Identical cars. Here's the checkered flag as Jimmy Vasser takes the win. De Ferran, who goes in second, and I think it's a dead heat.
I think Robbie might have got him.
He just may have.
May have got him.
So there's Joe Montana, who was the leader at the start driving the pace car. Now Jimmy Vasser is the winner here today. His very first IndyCar win. And the third win for Firestone since their return, a second for Honda.